Yo, look at that. Stephen McQueen. All right, sorry. This is an important package. Yo,
Hi, it's actually Aaron. I don't know why my husband's name is coming up on there. The
that's cool. Sweet. So the link worked.
link did work.
Okay. I didn't know how this was going to work. I mean, like you read on the internet, but bam, here we go. It's working. Where are you based?
I am currently in California, but we're moving to Texas in about 2.5 months.
Okay. Cool. Sweet. Well, we'll see who jumps in. Let's just chat. Does that sound cool?
Cool.
So, what's your day?
What's what?
What's your day-to-day like? What are you doing as a behavior analyst? Or tell us.
I do in-home mostly. Well, exclusively, honestly. But yeah, just in-home ABA, usual, typical stuff.
How'd you find the field?
So I actually started out my career in social services and in the criminal justice field, working with adolescents that are involved in court. When I was about halfway through my master's degree in criminal justice, my mom, who is a special educator, said, "I heard about this certificate called a BCBA, and you would be really good at it." And I was like, "Oh, I've already, I'm halfway through this program. I'm gonna stick here, right?" So I got after over a decade in that field, I got a little burned out and decided to make a change and went back to that. Hey, what was that behavior thing you said? Rest is history. Now I'm here.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a lot to shift careers in the middle of nowhere or trajectories like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that training, that background useful for like what you do in our field?
It's sometimes hard to kind of shut that part off. And all the things that you're used to looking for, those red flags and stuff. It's sometimes hard to especially doing in-home, it's hard to shut that part off and go, okay, that's not why you're here. You're here for this other thing. And, to really on the behavior analysis part instead of looking for all those other little things that you've been trained to look at. But I guess a little bit it has helped with this career. So
Nice. What's taken, you can always tell me to shut up. I'm always just very inquisitive. But what's taking you across the country for the move?
My husband is in the Air Force and he's retiring. So we are going to move home to Texas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. I've had some folks. Are you in the military Facebook group, military behavior analysts?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Nice. Someone was asking me down in Vegas to do an episode on that sometime.
Oh, you should.
Yeah. What's it? I don't know. What goes on that group? I haven't been a part of it formally.
People are mostly asking, when they're getting ready to PCS, finding out what opportunities are available in other places. A lot of conversations occur over people that are going overseas. So, which is really interesting. I've thought about that too. If my husband was going to stay in and we were to go overseas, how does that work?
Yeah.
Find a job in your field, going overseas. So that's pretty interesting. So there's a lot of talk about that. Also talking, if you have clients who are military and they're being moved, there's a lot of talk about that. Also talking, sorry, that was weird.
No, you're good. Dimitri showed up.
I got some feedback there, so that was a little bit weird. Okay. So yeah, they talk about if a client has gotten orders and they're going to be moving, places to refer them to. Hey, who in this area who can we refer clients to?
Yeah, cool. Welcome, Dimitri. What's up, man?
Yo, what's up, man?
Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, is this thing working? I don't even know.
Yeah, I can hear you really well.
I had to download Chrome for this, by the way. You're welcome. Fighting against the Google machine.
Don't you have an Android device?
All right, I guess I do.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? Are either of you guys familiar with the huge file that Google keeps on you?
Oh, I know it's ridiculous, but I haven't seen it.
I got one of those paranoid things on Facebook where you're like, oh, you won't believe what information Google keeps on you. And then I'm going to follow this link, even though I know it's spam. Well, it's not spam. And then I found like 3 gigs of voice messages, like 15-second recordings of my voice. And I'm like, oh my God, this is unacceptable. My phone's recording me. And then I click on the third one and it's me yelling at somebody in traffic. And I'm like, this can never see the light of day. I can't believe this exists somewhere without my fucking consent. Like, unacceptable.
Well, without your consent, or as part of that terms of service.
Yeah, or like I'm an idiot and I just click yes when I see 77 pages of like fine writing.
I think the whole world is. You know, I saw a YouTube video where they were trying to argue like this, since nobody reads it, we should probably rethink the way that we write those whole things up. Like, are you really giving consent when nobody reads it at the end of the day?
You're definitely not. You're definitely selling your soul to somebody to make money off of your information. Hello. Yeah. It says your husband's name. What's your name?
Aaron.
Oh, okay. Aaron. Hello. Sorry. I missed that.
No problem.
What's up, Aaron? You're moving to Texas, huh? So you guys from there originally? I didn't miss that part.
Do what?
From Texas originally? Oh.
Yeah, I'm from Texas originally, and we have lived in North Dakota twice, Texas, South Carolina, and California.
What was North Dakota like?
Cold.
Cold.
But it was actually our favorite station. We loved it there. The people are great. If you've seen the movie Fargo, it's exactly like that.
People thrown into wood chippers all the time?
No. No, they talk like that. Their sense of humor is like that. Like, you can tell them a joke and they'll just be like straight face, like totally flat affect, and be like, oh yeah, huh, that's funny. And right along. Like, they don't, it's funny.
Is it true that North Dakota has like a sibling jealousy rivalry with the fact that South Dakota not only has the better name, but they have Mount Rushmore?
I don't know. I never heard anybody talk about it.
I think you're mad about it. There's like a whole political thing where they want to be called North Dakota. They just want to be called Dakota because they get screwed with tourism. That's a real thing, I swear to God.
I originally asked because I heard I grew up in just a small town in Nevada called Tonopah, and there's a lot of blue collar jobs, a lot of like hands-on construction and stuff. So there'd be people that came through or went up to North Dakota for work quite often.
Yeah, and especially now with the oil field booming up there, things have really taken off. Lots and lots of people are moving up there for work at the oil field, and I don't think the locals are super excited about that. But
is that the whole pipeline thing?
There's the pipeline, and then there's also in Williston, North Dakota, which is close to Montana. They've had big booms in the oil industry up there.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it looks like you follow the channel. That's really fantastic. I know that I'll thank you for Ryan.
I do, and I've been listening to the podcast too, and it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
Thanks.
Have you got a chance to check out Merrill's? I sent it this morning.
I haven't listened to his yet, but I'm excited to, because he's on the Confessions of a Behavior Analyst page, and I follow that, and he is pretty funny.
Yeah, he goes pretty hard on that.
Merrill is on 10 all day. I don't think he has, like, actually when he's asleep, he's on 10. When he's awake, he's on 11.
Yeah.
He has 2 settings, on and on.
It's my kind of
really
my kind of guy.
Yeah, it's really awesome. What if so do you have, let me ask you this, do you have any special topics that are near and dear to your heart?
Let's see, special topics. No, not really. I sent you a private message a while back. Coming to ABA from the background that I came to it from, which is highly bureaucratic, but also extremely transparent. I just have this whole thing about the how common it is that companies want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and you can't talk to anybody about anything. It's all so secretive and hush hush, and it just really bothers me. And I also wonder about people that come into our field, or people that are looking at it from the outside. Like what kind of impression does that make on them?
How like controlled we are with the information flow, and how we try to restrict people's mobility and that kind of thing. You mean?
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's so, and especially after I got back from ACT boot camp in Reno, and the fit learning people and what they put up, and their organization seems to be super transparent and just very open and very,
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, they're sharers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Behavior analysts are not good sharers for the most part. Yeah.
Right. Like, what's that about? Like, why is that a thing? How did all this come about? I just wonder.
I think a couple things for me with the NDA when I think about that topic. I think we did talk about it, right, Ryan? We actually are asking. We're trying to find a lawyer to come about it. So we can get a legal point of view about it.
I'm trying to get we've got some back and forth going on. We don't have a confirmation yet, but I just wanted to start with something that was like a breakdown of like, what is an NDA? What is a non-compete? Like, what are the differences between these sort of things? Just to kind of set this tone for like a resource that you can go to where you can understand.
Right.
I'd say like student behavior analysis, or someone that's getting in the field, you could start to understand like what you're walking into and such. And then the thought was from there that we could maybe do a part 2, part 3, and kind of dive into it a little bit more.
Well, the enforceability too, like, are they even enforceable? Because
right. Yeah, exactly.
I live in Ohio, which is a right to work state, which is really more like a right to get fired state. But
right.
On the other side, though, right to work also makes NDAs almost pointless, because the way they open up the two-way willingness to work for an employer, and the employer employ you. Like, they can't tell you once they're done with you or you're done with them whether or not you can go work for somebody else, really. So it really depends on how much money they have to throw at the problem, and if it's really worth it to them. And 99.99% of the time, unless you're an executive who has access to some major trade secrets, they're not going to bother pursuing it.
Right.
The non-competes are bullshit too, where they try to say like you can only work within a particular radius. So like, you can't work within a 10-mile circle. Oh, okay, that's cool. Stupid. That stuff is completely preposterous. It's hilarious. The other thing too is it comes from the wrong place, in my opinion, just from a business point of view. And that, like, if you come from a place of scarcity where you try to control the flow of information and you try to control the access to resources, you really create a hostile, like, stagnated environment, where if you come from a position of abundance, which is there's opportunity for everyone, and hey, you don't want to work for me, but we should maintain at least some semblance of positive relationship when it's all said and done, you really increase the possibility of future collaboration, future work together, future connections and resources that you might not have had, and you really don't lose anything. When it's all said and done, people are going to do what they're going to do no matter what, so it's pointless to try to control them. So that's just our point of view on it.
Yeah.
That's whatever. Those things are hilarious. They tried to smack me with a non-compete a long time ago because I left right after I got my supervision, and I was like, well, that's cool. Like, go ahead, sue me. We'll see we'll see what happens. And nothing ever happened. So it was pointless.
Right. Right. And I just guess I wonder kind of too, how did that come about in this field? And, is it common in other, I mean, I never heard of it in the social services field, but is it common like in, other psychology related?
Yeah. So that was part of the first, hold on real quick. Rebecca, what's up?
Rebecca.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
we're talking about NDAs and all that sort of stuff, and behavior analysis. So the person I want to get on is specifically in like a lawyer, but works in the autism sphere, our bubble. And so the goal is to start to ask those sort of questions of like how much should we expect to see these sort of things in our field versus others. I once posted on Facebook, like probably 4 or 5 months ago, just kind of a rant because somebody sent me behind the scenes something that said that you were not allowed to work elsewhere because of your trade knowledge of the principles of behavior. And I was like, that's complete whack. Like you're saying that your trade secrets are the principles of behavior. Like you're not
the public domain knowledge. So that so does the, I don't know, does NASA own gravity? Like what?
And
you can't do 9.8 meters per second. We figured that out.
I had a couple different like types of responses. One was from business owners that were like, don't throw the business owner under the bus. And it's like, hey, I've been in business or involved in high level parts of business like the last 8 years of my career. Like I get that perspective to a degree. Like I don't understand all of it, but like I've been on both the bailout side of like, yo, I'm out of here because the employer didn't hold up what they were holding up. But I've also been in a part where I was high up in the management where you start to have those sort of problems because of people making decisions above me too. Like it sucks. But the thing is, like, it's probably poor management and like OBM skills and things going on there. But then the other side was some people saying like, yo, chill, man. Like this isn't a thing to be ranting about as much publicly. Like in a way, kind of get your shit together, I think is what they're saying. Like you got some good thoughts here, but like you need to rethink this a little bit more, which is cool. That's how I learn. But then the other one was really interesting. It was a guy that's here in Reno, connected through like a TEDx event or some sort. And he was saying that we should, basically he was like, hey, they're a lot more complex than you think. He works in finance of some sort. I can't remember the whole thing, but I caught up with him for lunch and he was just talking about when it comes down to your true and tried, like process trade secrets, like things that you have worked on developing, like that's when he's chased after people and won, and it's been very useful for him. And I get like if you've developed something and people are using it in your local area to like try to compete and like pull you down to an extent, but it's also like, I don't know, like I like I like forces competing with each other to an extent too. Like it's part of a free market.
Right.
I think developing a product and restricting people's opportunity to leave to go somewhere else is different things. So like restricting competition versus protecting your intellectual property are different things.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it started to break down. I remember Joe Lang commenting and saying, "Hey, keep these kind of separate." I don't know. The guy made a really good argument as to like why he enforced them and like followed them, and he followed that rule that you just talked about there, Dimitri. Like he said, you know, you can operate within this sphere all you want, but like this stuff that we were developing over here, like this is what I'm going to keep pursuing, so don't touch that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like the original thing for me was like the principles of behavior. Like, sorry.
It's just you don't own that shit. Like you don't get to own general principles of science. Like that's not how it works. You get to own items, that idiosyncratic things that you produce that are unique to yourself, and maybe use of the principles in a packaged way, but are not the principles themselves. Like you can't own NaCl. Like you just can't.
Rebecca, what's going on in your world?
Well, I just watched the controversial exchange episode he released.
Nice. Did you like Meryl?
I loved it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
He's quite the character.
Yeah.
I
personally love cursing, so you know I'm all for people throwing curse words around.
Yeah, he really.
I always got excited when my supervisors would say "fuck," you know, or something, because then I could get away with it too.
Yeah,
the things that he said that you were like, I don't know if I agree with that. Was it too?
That's a good question. I was reflecting a lot on the whole gift thing.
Oh yeah, that was probably definitely that a lot of people disagree with.
Yeah. Because you know, it's something that we had been having a discussion about recently in my workplace. And And, thus far, I've been operating under the error on the side of caution, and just we lay it out and we have conversations with, families right at the beginning, like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's why, kind of break it down. But, I can see the value in having some flexibility, but the piece that, and what you guys kind of get into too is, we don't train people how to manage their own contingencies, to be able to, because even if you have like a, someone from another culture who's living here and they, giving gifts as part of that. Well, my staff aren't part of that culture, and they're going to be influenced by receiving a gift from somebody, whether they might like it or not. So, when do we train them on how to manage their own behavior in regards to that?
Yeah, that's when I thought back on it, I really was kicking myself in the ass, because one thing we could have talked about was, what's the point? Like, why is it a rule that we don't accept gifts? And it's about not establishing inappropriate quid pro quos, because really, when you accept money for service, you're engaging in quid pro quo, right?
Yeah.
Like, I give you something, you get something. You get my services, I get your money. So then when you add something like a gift on top of that, you're trying to say, okay, does this alter that agreement in a way where you would have to act outside of the
right
specifics that you've already established, and does it violate the initial agreement in some capacity, or would it force you to act differently than you would otherwise?
Yeah.
So that's something that I wish we would have said, because
there's going to be a follow-up, right? So
yeah, that's true. Maybe we'll have that conversation.
Yeah, so the goal, I haven't set it all up yet on like Facebook as an event and such, but the goal is to bring him back for a live. So part of the reason I wanted to test this out is to start getting this really down, so that we can hop on and maybe do some of these live as well. So yeah, I'll get that together. We have a date set. It's May 6th. So if you want to mark on your calendar, I'll send it out soon, but it's a Monday, the same time as we're doing it now. And I think we'll just open it up, chat, make it like a Google Hangout like this, and see how many people can show up and just go for it.
Where are you located?
What?
I'm in the Bay Area.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
She was over for the boot camp last weekend.
Yeah.
Last weekend? 2 weekends ago?
Yeah, it
Two
was like
weekends
2
ago.
now, almost. Yeah.
Dude, I'm so jealous of the weather in that part of the country. It's
And
no.
people are freaking out over here because it's actually like, been raining, a couple days a week for the last like couple weeks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone's like, oh, the rain. And I'm like, shut up. We're not going to get rain for another 6 years. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it didn't snow, so take that one. I don't know. Yeah, it's been pretty wet.
Yeah.
So have you all been exploring any like new readings or resources in the field and such lately?
My to be read stack just keeps growing.
I think that's a problem for everybody, right?
What's number one on the list right now? What do you
Oh,
want to
God.
get to?
I'm reading the supervisor's guidebook right now, but I also have the clinical judgment book
Oh, nice.
sitting
Nice.
here, and the thriving adolescent sitting
Oh,
here.
can
Yeah.
you hold that up a little higher? I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one?
It's the DNAV model for ACT.
DNAV,
That's
yeah.
on my list too.
Yeah. And then I ordered, when I was at ACT Boot Camp, I ordered ACT Made Simple and it was another one by Harris. So
The Happiness Trap?
it wasn't the Happiness Trap. It was the one where he 150 questions answered or something.
Okay. That guy
Right.
produces so much content.
Like.
He's got a Facebook group too.
Yeah, he goes. He just goes.
People are just throwing stuff out there. Yeah.
You want to talk about someone that's on 10 and 11 all the time, Dimitri?
What's the
Okay.
guy's name? I haven't heard of
Russ
Russ
Harris. I think he's down in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, just really prolific writer and act, and does a lot of outreach. He got on the whole podcast, blog, video stuff like 10 years ago when everyone else should have. In our field, you know what I mean? Like he hopped onto it early and just cranked it out, dude. So I've never been a part of it, but I just see him constantly going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ACT guys are all really productive, man. Like,
The one thing that I really respect out of their system is I feel like they're not perfect by any means, but a lot more coordinated of like an entity, like the different from the practitioners to ACBS to the RFT folks. There's a lot of disconnects in there, but I think they're doing it a lot better. And the fact like they organize themselves to create like whatever it is, 120, 130, 150 RCTs, like randomized controlled trials. Yeah, behavior analysis is still living off of like Lovas and one other, right? For a lot of our EIBI stuff, like it's really, it's respectable. I think that like reticulated model of them just like moving forward is really respectable.
yeah, I don't know how possible that is in the behavior analysis. I think that's why no one's done it. Because I mean, it's like it's like when you find like a pair of shoes when you hit a certain age. Not that I'm that age, but and you're like, these shoes are shot, but they still make them. I'm gonna go buy the same pair again, and no one will notice. They'll just be new, and that's just the same shit that you wear every time. I feel like that's how we are with most of the techniques and most of the way people approach these problems, because we're in the same general spheres for 150,000 years. So it's just easier to. There's really no need, really, with the exception of like FA is the only really thing that's changed.
That's kind of funny because, CBS and ACT, like it's all about psychological flexibility. So, they come from a place of flexibility. So
it's so ironic that behavior analysis doesn't really do that. But then you have contextual behavior science side, and that's literally what their whole focus is that, which is kind of like partially why they broke off, right? Isn't that where the divorce happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The ABA field wasn't evolving with them, so.
Yeah. Do you guys use it? Do you use a lot of contextual behavior stuff?
I have just recently been getting into it, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I plan on full on incorporating it. I came from a CBT background before I got my BCBA.
Or counselor? Originally?
Yeah, well, so I started out as an individual counselor for adults. I always worked with kids in like residential treatment centers, places like that. And so I just I went the counseling route, but fell into ABA. I saw the field and I was like, hey,
CBT's not bad. CBT's not bad.
No, I mean, I really liked a lot of it, but also with my program, it wasn't like, the more I learn about ACT, some of my professors were teaching me some of that stuff, in a more flexible way. It wasn't really rigid, like you must confront these thoughts and change them. And, we did a mindful breathing exercise in class, and I was like, holy shit, that works. Like,
oh man,
so I've always been applying stuff like that. So like I love it. And I want to use that in a combination of, evolution science to kind of revamp the way that we educate.
Yeah, that stuff is cool. That the whole the contextual behavior evolutionary book thing. Pretty cool book.
Yeah.
About halfway through it, and I'm like, okay, this is worth my time.
Yeah. Are you reading the evolution in contextual behavioral science?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah. You should read also David Sloan Wilson's This View of Life.
What is it called?
This View of Life.
Okay.
It just came out recently.
It just released. But it gives a whole like background, and
I was curious if that was available on Audible. I'm gonna go check.
This View of
Life. Yeah, that I wish more of these things were available on Audible.
Well, because who has time to sit and read a book?
Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass for
the evolutionary science stuff. Like really went so over my head.
No, but so that this book, The View of Life, like he makes it super accessible. He breaks it down. He uses some of those RFT skills that he's learned. C-face.
So they covered that in the boot camp. I haven't done the act. I need to do that boot camp.
Yeah,
I know people are talking about.
This one did. They had a day 4.
Yeah,
they just added it. Yeah, this was like their first test to see if they're going to keep doing things like that.
So how do they present it in the context of using ACT? They just talk about how the two are connected, or
I'm gonna disclose that I wasn't there the whole day, so I'm not the best to answer this.
yeah, Becca.
Yeah, no, it's like bringing in just as far as values and that sort of thing. Like evolutionarily, we developed in certain ways to, have certain aspects of things. Like cooperating in groups we evolved cooperating in groups. So, how can we bring these ACT principles and these core design principles of what makes an effective group to make groups run more effectively?
Yeah.
Right. And how can we structure things so that we are, living this way in these small groups that are effective to kind of make the world a better place?
Yeah. They tied it into the day that was on OBM, and David Wilson came in and presented, and then Ramona Homenfar, I can never say her name right.
Homenfar or something. Yeah.
Came in after, and but yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of information for day 4.
It was a lot of it. Yeah, that's why I say read this book, because all the stuff he talked about was in the book, or most of it anyway.
It's in my shopping cart. I've got like 7 things. I'm just like,
now it's on your to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. It's great. I feel like my reading list just continuously explodes. It's unbelievable.
That's what happens. You get one of these, and then it's like there's 3 or 4 more you gotta freaking read.
Yeah.
I just bought the Audible book, so.
Oh, they have it. Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be queued. I think I got 3 or 4 in the hopper still there.
Nice.
I'm almost done with that narrative book on Audible.
Nice. The Houston, we have a narrative.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
It's good. It's all right.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little more technical than I was hoping it would be.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that I've read enough like science aspirational stuff, like Carl Sagan and Richard Dawkins and those kind of people who are excellent at providing beautiful narrative to science. So I think a lot of the things he's saying are obvious, but obvious because I've already seen those things. What I do think is different is that he lays it out like a blueprint rather than you having to kind of interpret it and pluck those ideas out yourself just from paying attention. So I do like that. It's much more instructional, which I didn't go into it with that mindset, and I like it so far. Actually, I feel like it's
it's pretty cool. I'm gonna go to his workshop on Tuesday, actually.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited, man. So for context, he's a marine biologist that went into Hollywood to start figuring out how to try to affect climate change. He was about to have his tenure, and he decided to bail on that and go this other route. So it was pretty cool. You know, when you read a book and you write somebody and they reply, you're like, hey, this is cool. It's a human.
Yeah.
And so I chatted with him on the phone for 10 minutes and just said, hey man, I really love this book and I want to explore a lot more. And he said, hey, I'm in Boulder. You mentioned you're in Reno. If you want to come down, you can sit in this workshop. So I was like, hell yeah, count me in. So Tuesday, he's working with the National Park Service. I'm trying to help them figure out how to craft stories, I would assume, so that they can try to engage people better at the parks that are visiting the parks and influence behavior. I'm not sure. There'll definitely be some sort of report on the channel about it. What was that, Dimitri?
Conservationism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebecca, do you have any special topics that kind of hit your fancy? Are there things that you're wish people would talk about?
Oh God. I mean, my head's real in the whole.
You're ACT brainwashed right now, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah.
I interrupt. What you're going to say? You're going to say ACT stuff, or are you going to say something else?
No, well, but just education. I'm on the education thing right now because
do you work in education?
I don't. I work in home services for kids with disabilities, but I just feel like that's a real good place to make a real big impact.
You mean when you say education, do you mean education reform, public school integration, like incorporating behavior science into public schools? Like what? Any?
All of the above. Yeah, I mean, just I really think we need to completely change the way that child development interventions occur.
Yeah,
That's
I think I just sent it out this morning with David Sloan Wilson, where he was sharing like a failure story on how he was saying that there's these practices at work. He calls it the paradox of practices at work, but nobody's using them, right? He talked about it at the event too. I was like, hey, that's like 99% of behavior analysis.
Yep. I mean, and that's where I'm kind of at. Like, I want to bring all this stuff back and apply it. And now, I mean, I think ACT is a really good way to influence people's receptiveness of this.
Dimitri, what he was talking about was how if you don't build things correctly, then the powers that be can just kill them off. So he's trying to look at it from an evolutionary perspective of are you setting this thing up for success or not?
Systemic resiliency, almost like you're doing it. You're constructing a perfect biological organism only in terms of an organism or like an organization. So like you have to have adequate defenses and offenses.
Yeah,
and it's a structure type thing.
Yeah, and I think the argument kind of goes there that there's
Sorry, can you hear that?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Just on our way over with both her small children, so I'm sure it'll get loud in here too.
Yeah, no, kids are cool. What was I saying? Darn it. The
like Sloan Wilson and the evolutionary stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just that. What was it? You have to. He was saying like you need to build these things essentially with to where there's no way that some higher entity can like counter it. Which I don't know how practical that is. Like with education, for example, like we have a public education system. Does that mean just like go private and work in the private sector as hard as you can?
Yeah, that's it's fun. There's this guy. God, let me see if I can find the name of the book. So I don't know if that's possible when you're talking about public entities and without going private. Yeah. I just don't know how that is. There's this guy, this entrepreneur guy who wrote a book called Disrupt You. What's his freaking name? But he's been involved in like Jay Samit. So he's been involved in all these humongous multi-bajillion-dollar buyouts. And he talks about like all the different disruptions that have happened in different industries and how they occurred and what like purpose they served and what people did from a business perspective and what people did from like developing their service and their product to make that happen. And I think that blueprint makes more sense to me. And a lot of it just has to do with looking at trends and looking at what's working and not working and just literally developing a better mousetrap. But not just that, setting it up in such a way that it's a self-sustainable financial model. And he gives a lot of very specific examples of different industries who have had that happen and different businesses that have developed as a result. Because he was on the forefront of like digital music. Like I think he was one of the guys that brought. He was like with Mark Cuban, where they brought like audio files to the internet type stuff and destroyed. Like, which was just at the time sounded ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like how they destroyed record companies basically and that kind of thing. So it's an interesting book that might elucidate some more information on that from a business angle. But yeah, I think the way that you do it is you disrupt it externally and you figure out how to tap into the funding and you just out earn them. And then once if you're a good enough actor,
what was that called again?
Brilliant. It's called Disrupt You by a guy named Jay Samit.
An interesting thing that happened in Reno here. So Washoe County has been on the national radar for people on like reform for the last like 5 or 6 years pretty heavily. We at one point fell below Puerto Rico like on our outcomes.
Nationally, you mean?
Yeah, like we were 51st. We were the 51st state because we dropped below there. Yeah, right. And
that explains so much.
I did not go to school in that district. But man, so like, here's a good example. Like Fit Learning is here. It's been here the whole time. Been, like 12, 15 years, whatever. They've been playing around with that. And we were actually approached because we did some professional development classes. I developed 2 of them. There was another one that was already developed by Mark Malady. And we were just trying to spend, what was it? It was a 15-hour professional development class for anyone in special education. They were wanting to take a pretty systematic approach at trying to get as many people in as possible. We were teaching them basics of behavior analysis and helping them with a rapid consult. The rapid consult functioned 2 ways. It was to help apply the skills in the moment and kind of show some of those sort of things, but also just some like risk management. Like we'd be able to go back and be like, hey, admin, like this is crazy. Like you need to go like fix this shit right now. And what they were doing was the Fit Learning crew was trying to like systematically like work with the school district. At some point that didn't work. Like I don't know what happened there. But what they were trying to do for us is they're like, hey, can you guys do precision teaching like on the side? And what it was is the school district was so shit that people were then complaining and wanting fit services. So the fit services were being paid for by the school district. And so the school district was getting pissed at the sense of like the cost of that sort of stuff and that it was more effective and it was just kicking ass. And so for years, man, the school district has been trying to get local behavior analysts to do a precision teaching lab like within the school district. But the thing is like what they're doing is they're pitting the local behavior analysts against each other. So when they ask us to do that stuff, usually what we say is like, hey, we don't have the institutional knowledge and like the skill set of the Fit Learning crew. Even if like we value that stuff, like myself, like I can't compete with that. Like if you're looking for a replication, like sorry. And by the way, like this is fucked up. Like you're literally saying like, F those guys, we want you to do this. And like we have barbecues with them on the weekend now. And you know what I mean? Like we're like the same, like we go to the same things. Like not that I'm like super close to the Fit Learning crew, but like it's our day-to-days that keep us apart. It's not our values. And that was the thing where like you guys can't do this shit. But I know now talking with some folks that they're like sending people to ABI to get them trained in precision teaching so that they can still to keep like doing this sort of thing. So I mean the thing there was like, I guess I had a firsthand experience of just the politics involved. And even when the school district like sees something that's working so damn well, there's like, I don't know, there's this like ego that gets in the way at the end of the day of like, they had the opportunity to work on
and you're gone.
Oh man.
15-minute block throughout the day to be able to like implement this sort of technology, right? So they're working on a low-cost solution with the school district at one point. But the bridges are always burnt by the fucking school district. It's like,
well, dude, I mean, that's all that whole second half, the analysis portion of Project Follow Through is that.
yeah.
All the different things that Kathy Watkins lays out from her interpretation is all that stuff where she's talking about basically it's institutional dogmatism, it's administrative dogmatism, it's educational dogmatism, it's financial, like when we're talking about teachers unions, and it's in general, like all the different variables that go on as far as like the actual people who are controlling the system not wanting to change or alter their behavior, because if they do, they have to admit that they're fucking up.
And I think that some of the people, like most people in there, like genuinely care and they're trying as hard as they can. But there's this like lack of skill set on like knowing what works, like what really actually works. And then systems building, man. Like I found myself continually instructing people that were making 4 to 5 times my fucking salary that were in these positions on like, if you roll something out, you can't do it this way. Like it is like fundamental problems.
I don't think they are trying to do the right thing. I think they're trying to maintain their status. And as a result, everyone suffers. Because if they were trying to do the right thing, they would be willing to look at alternatives and look at the data as it presents itself.
Well, like I would see those like sort of conflicts, I guess. Like I feel like I'd see
Go ahead.
I feel like I'd see those conflicts in people, right? Like I agree with you. I guess it's like a pull on both of those, I feel like. And like
I mean, like anything, right? You're not gonna want to make a decision that initially hurts you because you're like, I'm not gonna shoot myself in the foot here. But then on the flip side, if you do have a certain sense of obligation and a certain, I don't know, altruism. That's not the right word, but let's just use it for now.
Yeah.
Towards your fellow man, then you're like, okay, how do I reconcile the fact of my need to take care of myself, but the need of my obligation to the world or the many, right, or to others? And yeah, I feel like they make the wrong choice every single time, which is why education continues to slip into a fucking shit
For
show.
sure.
Yeah, I mean that's just.
And I get why parents end up like filing these class action suits or like picketing to get people removed.
I mean, in the state of Ohio, they basically like because of the amount of legal issues that happened, they had to develop an entire alternative school choice program where as long as people signed away FAPE, they got to take a bunch of money and go take it somewhere else. And because of that, we have a very robust private special education system. Now, again, do I like that personally? Yes, because I financially benefit from it. I have a job. I get to be a behavior analyst and not have to worry about all the administrative bullshit that goes with like being in a public school. Do I like it as a citizen? Of course not. I believe in public education. Like, I want to see those things be successful, and I want to see, the education system be as good as it possibly can. But again, like, dude, we are individuals with no money and whatever, and that's an entire system with they're just like self-perpetuating engine with infinite money, fucking, and just special interest guiding it all over the place. So what really effect can we have? I don't know. Like, do we start a behavioral revolution? Do we get like 37,000 behavior analysts to march the streets?
Yeah.
That would be a very. I feel like that would be a very respectful protest.
It really would be.
Nice. I think it depends what type of analyst you had on that.
I did just watch that podcast with Merrill Winston.
This is why the other people in the influencer spheres, wherever you want to look, like just really fascinate me, because I don't know, like I feel like you need to have this like systematic like 30-year step of like trying to build a larger and larger following, and figure out how to make it resonate, right?
Yep. You need the right factors in place. I'm a little encouraged about California right now because our new superintendent of education, or I don't know, whatever the heck he is, came from like a school that was trying to advance things like in Oakland for, disadvantaged youth or whatnot. So I feel like he, might be a good target for some of this.
You ever wonder how many people like just come bombarding their doors like as soon as they're in office?
Yeah. But we know how to have values-based conversations and, be useful to him. What does he want? Not let me tell you what I think you need to do, Yeah. What do you want to accomplish and how can I help you?
I sometimes felt like they only kept our contract with them on the professional development stuff because they didn't want us being loud elsewhere. They're just like, yeah, 60 grand of a contract this year. That's cool. It'll make them happy and be quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was true.
We have to capitalize on this competition aspect too. I mean, and that's where I think California's got a good shot too, because we all want to prove that we're better than everybody else anyway. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Eventually y'all will succeed.
That's my favorite sport.
What's your favorite what?
That's my favorite sport. Making other people feel small, like winning in general.
We want to bring everybody else up too. We just want to be the
Of course we do. Do we?
After California.
After we go first, though.
Yeah.
They can come up second first, though.
Yeah. Hey, I don't care who fucking does it first, but somebody needs to do it.
No, I'm just joking.
I just happen to be here.
It would be nice. I don't know. I'm slowly giving up on a lot of the public options at this point. I just feel like there's so much corruption and so much red tape and so much special interest and so much. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's worth it.
It's absolutely worth it, because that's how we change all of that, is we get this next generation coming up to understand the world differently.
Yeah, I feel like you got to give the youngsters, like, here's the way the world works, and advocate until you're like blue in the face with this sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And then like, so if you take the Parkland incident as like an example of people trying to do that, the youth, it like makes me scared that doesn't even work. Right? Like they're fighting the battle, but
Yeah, and they have all the media.
But did they win? Right? Like,
yeah, I don't know what ended up what they accomplished. I think they brought a lot of awareness to things, but I mean, like, awareness is code for they didn't really do anything, but they gave it a really awesome try.
yeah, I
don't know.
They
But-
definitely
you know.
pushed the discussion around.
But they did create discussion.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
No,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's where, like, kind of back to what Dimitri was getting at, was just we need a shit ton of this stuff going on really small levels all over the place.
Yeah.
And it'll eventually, like, catch on.
Cumulative effect.
So
Yeah.
we can't give up. We just gotta, like,
It creates a
build
boiling
network.
point. I agree.
Yeah.
And also, like for me, it's always the problem is that I find that we get caught in, like, and why the Merrill discussion I felt was so important. And again, maybe it was another thing that we missed. I feel like the hyper emphasis for acceptance, which, and the way that we approach trying to be accepted, which is by, like, playing the game, is why we continue to lose at it. Like, and this is why the Disrupt You book, I think, why, if you're interested in reading that, I think you should check it out, is that really, though, whenever anyone's really put any serious change to any system, it's because they flipped the board and played the game with completely different rules. And they said, I'm not going to play these rules because these rules are set against me and to benefit you, so I'm just not even going to do it. And I don't know, sometimes you just got to flip the board and play differently and be completely disruptive and difficult and challenging and unyielding and uncompromising.
Yeah, like, and
Do they-
that's where I plan on getting the parents involved, because who really has some power here.
Who did they give as examples in that book? Was it Uber, like, one of the prime examples?
I think it was before Uber, actually.
Okay.
So he was giving this is like 2 years ago I read this thing. He talks about, like, Ready Player or whatever.
Ready Player One?
No, not Ready Player One, like the original online media player, that Real Player.
Oh, yeah.
Like Real Player, like talking about like MySpace versus Facebook. He even does a whole thing with the way Amazon came along and disrupted the entire retail industry. All those different types of examples. Yeah, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And when he talks about disruption, I don't know. I don't know.
I've found it fascinating how when people pull that off and they get their competitors to jump on board of their system too. Like, that's the ultimate, like, you've won, I think, if you can figure that stuff out. So like Toys R Us, the Toys R Us was like, sure, Amazon, why don't you just ship our stuff for us?
Oh yeah,
so everything starts showing up in an Amazon box.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right. Yeah, I wonder if Bezos, like, whoever, there's a lot of people in there, I'm sure, that were just like, haha, I got him. Or if they were just like, oh, that worked,
Oh, dude.
like this accidental thing.
He figures out what their best-selling item is and makes a generic version of it less. Napster was another big one, another big example that he gave.
Okay.
How Napster disrupted the music industry.
Yeah, man. I was consumed in Napster, but I wasn't, like, thinking this way at that time. So I don't remember
back in the day. I love that stuff. Downloading music was amazing. I miss that. Don't you wish you?
It reminds me of the. What'd you say?
Don't you wish you get digital stuff for free still? That would have been pretty cool.
I mean, you could search for it and find it, but it's just a pain in the ass now. That's one thing they did do. Damn, what was I going to say? I forgot. It's gone.
Sorry. It's the internet. Stream of consciousness.
Yeah, it's gone.
I had to head out. I just got stopped on to say what's up. It was really nice meeting you guys.
You too.
Good to meet you too.
Appreciate it, man.
Catch you later, man.
Peace, dude.
Hey.
Later, bro.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is there anything y'all wanted to chat about?
I think interesting other thing to do with the follow-up maybe of the controversial exchange you just did.
Yeah.
Was, talk about, 'cause something that I came across recently was I can't remember the name of the dang school right now, but the school in Massachusetts with the special needs kids that everybody's trying to get them to not use the
Oh,
shotgun.
yeah. Judge Rottenberg Center.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Man,
that-
that'd be a That'd be a topic, right?
Controversial conversation.
I think my hesitancy on those things is like we need someone from the inside to jump on,
Yeah.
you know? And like, I don't know. I think that something like that would be a very beneficial, like offensive move if it was crafted and constructed the right way for them. Whether that is the outcome, like you're going to have the haters to jump on that, but I think it would be smart for them to like put stuff out personally.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to look into it, whatever. And it's like, okay, what's their defense of it?
Yeah. They used to have a ton of resources and like research on their site. And I don't know if it's unlisted. I haven't looked in the last like year. But it was so I first found it like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I read as much as I could. They had a ton of stuff. Like there was like 40 or 50 articles listed on their website. There was videos where they showed like the severity and the behavior that they were punishing. And like I remember seeing someone with like no lips. Like there was a video just like where their lips were like chewed off, and it was it was out of a horror scene. Like you could see like all of this was missing. And I don't know, like when I read the research, there's two things. Like the research seems like it's warranted sometimes, and you have to be very careful under which you're doing that sort of thing. The procedure side of like how it's administered seemed to be very tight, but I know that there was a hiccup in that, and that was where one of their lawsuits came from. On like you can't administer shock yourself, you have to have somebody else that like it ends up delivering that. But I know that there was a loop in that system that somebody found to administer it incorrectly. That was reported online. But there's a line obviously in which like how much positive practices and how good are you at implementing those sort of positive based approaches first.
Right.
So like the sharpness of the clinical team, which I can't judge again. I don't know their clinical team, but it's like such a diverse issue. I feel like you need a lot to kind of pull it apart, but I was interested they pulled a lot of their stuff off of their site at one point. And anyhow, I actually visited and toured there, and like it was basically 2 years ago from now. Have either of you like visited or read into it or looked into it?
I just came across it recently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I didn't see any like Clockwork Orange or like people that were just like out there to like, like they were the complete opposite. They were like very kind humans. And there was as you'd get with any organization that's doing things like that for 35, 40 years in a row or whatever, like they do things their way and like they have their systems built. They have this like really robust charting system to where things are automatically entered into, like if anyone's played around with Chartlytics, like they built something just like that internally and it's been there for like 30 years. Like they have some systems developed in there that I think regardless of your stance on the issue of what they're doing, like you would respect the systems that they built in there. I met some really cool people, some really different people. You get that with any organization. Like it's really eccentric. Like the Fit Learning Crew is weird compared to like a normal learning center group, right? Like when you're looking at them blowing bubbles and stuff, and like it's stuff like that, right? It's eccentric and like unique to their culture. And I think the one thing that I remember also from there is like there's some severe behavior. I didn't see anything on site there, but there was some really serious funding that was set up in that system. I think their average funding was like $350,000 per year per person for residential 24/7 sort of stuff, which is like, I get the cost of living, I get the intensity of services, but holy shit, that is like unreal because we would get for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for day services, which some of that is what they were providing there. Like we had similar clientele at the time. We were getting like, I think it was some of our ratios of 8-to-1 were like $8,000 a year. So like the differences there were just like unreal. And granted, like there was all those differences in the severity and like whatnot, but I don't know. I think the one good argument I've heard against them is like how strong are your positive based interventions beforehand, which they used to have it on the site. Like they had to try 6 months of that stuff beforehand. They still had to go to take the case to court to get it approved. Like it wasn't like you just implement shock the next day.
Right.
So I don't know. I think my last thought, is that Israel Gold Diamond talked about is like the degrees of freedom. So if you have all these different options out there, let's say you have 5 different options out there, the white space in between would be 4, right? Like the white space between those options. So you'd say that you have 4 degrees of freedom to choose from. And I don't know if I'm the person to be able to say, like, get that away, right? Because if it's really needed at some point, anybody, like any individual is like, yeah, we need to get rid of that. And like you vote against it or you try to shut it down or whatever. Like what you're doing for all of humanity is you're restricting the opportunities and the degrees of freedom of like possible services to go seek. So like if it's effective for 5 people a year, it should be an option for those 5 people.
Use them. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun topic. A fun topic also would be like the deinstitutionalization of everything, because it was kind of similar. Like when you push too hard on one type of model, what you do is you just restrict the opportunities for models that might be more effective, you know?
Yeah.
For certain people. I'll see if I can find some of the old video. They'll be out. Oftentimes there's a group out picketing outside of ABI. It's usually a small group of like 5 to 10 people.
Picketing at ABAI?
Yeah, they'll be like, no, shock, positive, blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll see if it's there.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them.
I've seen them. It's not all of them. I know at Denver they've showed up a couple times. Yeah, I doubt somebody is watching this from there, but if you happen to be, it would be awesome to talk with you all about like doing something thorough on that, even if it was a podcast or such. See, I don't see it on here anymore. Our school contacts, our staff. They used to have like a research.
I wonder what Jose Martinez Diaz's opinion on it would be too.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that stuff mentioned in the ethics chapter in the back of the white book? Because I know Jose's on that.
Wow.
I wonder.
Wonder too. That's a good question.
Probably not. The white book's supposed to be released at ABI this year, or around ABI. Their new version.
Oh.
I did not know there was a new version coming.
Yeah.
Neither.
Judge Rottenberg Center has an Instagram.
Huh.
66 followers.
I haven't really made it to Instagram yet.
It's kind of like the confessions group is right now in Facebook. Like it's a very like warm kind of funny community. You don't run into any assholes on there. Let's put it that way.
That's good. There's a lot of assholes on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are my family members.
Social media.
There's just one more thing to check. I was one of the original Facebook users. Like it's hard to branch out, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying I was in one of the pilot schools that they launched it with.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's neat. The first time I checked out Facebook and went to put my high school graduation year in there, I was too old.
Yeah.
Back that far. I was too old.
Yeah, because they had just like started. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it looks like they have a YouTube video on their site that says, watch the trailer for a documentary to be made about a few of our students and their families' journey to the JRC.
Yeah. Now that I remember, I saw that they were going to
I'll have to watch.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah, that'll be a must watch.
Yeah. I mean, my stance would be like, don't get rid of it forever. Like you need to have
I worry about writing it out completely.
Yeah.
But it definitely needs to be very like carefully, you know, planned.
Yeah.
I want to say that Law and Order did a ripped from the headlines episode on
Really?
that. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm surprised GRC didn't like funnel some money into getting like their stuff ranked far higher. Like when you search, it's just a shit show.
It is, yeah. I mean, well, I had to scroll through. I didn't even look at the, slew of YouTube videos of complaints and whatnot.
I've also chatted back and forth with someone from the neurodiversity movement that does a lot of trainings in that sphere. I'd love to get a topic with them sometime.
Yeah, I mean, because it was, like you said, like somewhere along the line, somebody decided that people, with different presentations should not ever experience adversity.
Yeah.
And
Meryl definitely hit that.
Yeah. Say what now? Yeah. It's true. I mean, that resonated though. Like, yeah, that's kind of the approach that's been taken. I mean, and that's the approach of the world in general right now, I think too. It kind of goes back to that. If you're not happy all the time, something's wrong. Well, wrong. Yeah, incorrect, also.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, whoever has lived a life like that, I don't know.
Sign me up.
Right. Sure, great, but or is it? I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to live a life,
No kidding, right?
Did you talk at all to I can't remember his name, but there was a guy at ACT Boot Camp that was part of the neurodiversity movement. Did you talk to him at all?
No, I didn't. I remember meeting, so I know that there was one guy there with a beard that like mentioned. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I know him, but I don't know. I just started to get to know him this trip. So I don't know. Like I've been thinking about this last night. I don't remember who it was. Oh, it's because so this happens when I don't know how to interact with, like, I guess process wise. So this is weird. Sorry. I'm like self-editing a lot. So when adults in behavior analysis with autism approach me, I don't know how to approach that yet. Like I haven't had enough reps and practice there. Like I can work with somebody in a clinical setting. I can see somebody in public that I'm not delivering services to, right? And just like, hey, like I understand, like get that, like I got that sort of stuff down. But it's weird when somebody has like neurodiversity, autism, like experiences from that side. Because I feel like I don't know, like I'm kind of like, take the wheel, lead the conversation. Yeah. Like I don't know what to do. Like, I don't think I'm the one that should like be like, yo, like let's do a podcast. But that I mean, obviously it helps to like open the discussion that way. So I don't know. I'm learning that.
I was gonna say that may come a little bit from your own, just like you were talking about too. You know, white male, whatever. Like
yeah,
you naturally like have this inclination to, not want to step on toes and. Draw back a little bit, but if you look at what what's being said is, well, you approach it like anybody else you'd freaking talk to, like,
for sure. Yeah. And like what's weird is I caught myself not doing that, right? And like what I usually do is I'm like, oh, let's build a little bit more rapport, and I don't know what that means, like I don't know what the fuck that means, but like instead of like me just like shaking hands and asking somebody, might be like, I'm gonna shake hands, I'm gonna meet you 2 more times, and then I'm gonna email you, like I don't know what my process is. I'd have to go back and look, but like I was talking to somebody else last night about a super similar situation where I was like, yeah, I don't know how to handle this. Like I need to rethink this out. And it's not intentional of like, you're different. It's more like, I respect your perspective so much that I don't know what to do yet. Like, like I don't want to impose.
I got to figure out if these thoughts that are running through my brain are, valid and something to look at, or if they're just noise.
Yeah. What's funny is like I feel like I'm respecting them more in some ways, but I'm also disrespecting by doing that too. It's like this weird values conflict.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, so the person that I ran into was every once in a while I'll get some comments from the neurodiversity community on the stuff that I do. And my rule, the general rule is like, if you want to have a conversation and not just like straight up keyboard warrior and call everyone assholes, then like, cool, just leave the comments up there and let's see what happens. And one of the guys was really kind right before Next Gen, where he was saying like, why don't you talk with people in this community? And I was like, dude, I'm all open for this, but I couldn't get a phone call with him. And he's in the Bay Area. He's doing presentations to like Airbnb, Facebook, like everywhere. Like I follow him quite a bit on LinkedIn, and it's just a matter of like I need to try to like lock the dude in sometime and be like, hey man, like I would love to be like, I'm a behavior analyst and I have questions, right? Like we created some questions, like, can you talk with us about these in a nice sort of way? I don't want to say who's right or wrong, but like let's try to understand your perspective more. And see where that goes.
Yeah. Especially the individuals that are, opposed to ABA.
Yeah, he seems like he's knowledgeable. He seems like he's knowledgeable generally in like what we do and like what, especially what the arguments are.
Well, I mean, we have arguments about ABA too. I mean,
yeah, and that's actually how I framed it. I was like, hey man, like I don't like a lot of the shit that you probably don't like too. Like we're probably okay. I'm gonna add in the chat here his LinkedIn,
nice.
just so you can check it out.
Yeah.
But it's that way it's not public either. So you want to check him out. I don't know how many connections and follows he's got. The dude influences. I know that. Not a super big following on LinkedIn, but he gets a lot of traction. So like, that's even better.
Yeah.
So you'll see, like he worked in the Hillary for America campaign.
Oh. Where's
office
in the chat box? How do I find the chat box?
Oh, and the top. So are you on Google? I don't know how to find it on mobile, but there's a what's the other way to do this? I can send it to you in Facebook real quick.
All right. Yeah. You got my email and stuff too. Patreon.
It's up and to the left. The chat box is.
Well, I see like, you joined the group.
I know you're on mobile, so I don't know what it looks like on your side.
I'm on my iPad, but I guess it's considering that mobile. I don't know, it's weird. I hate iPads.
How do I spell your name? You have K, don't you?
Yeah. Last name Kuhfahl.
There it is. Bam.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like you need to. Dimitri and I actually argue about this. Not argue, but like go back and forth on like differing opinions. Where it's like, should we tackle this topic or should we wait until we have the right person on? And I'm always the conservative guy that's like, hey, we need to have the right people involved. And it kind of goes back to that larger influence discussion, like trying to influence larger systems.
Right.
Like I feel like something, you need certain people in certain conversations for them to like really, I guess, be taken seriously. And Meryl was a good example of that. Like I feel like Meryl strengthens the argument. Whereas if it was just us cussing on a mic, it's not taken as seriously,
Well, yeah, like I wasn't even familiar with him, so I've got some.
Dude, that guy does some really good FABA presentations. If you can ever watch him live, definitely go watch him live.
Yeah. He seems like he'd be entertaining.
Yeah, he's a ball of fire. He's smart too. He's sharp.
I mean, I couldn't.
It's kind of an all around. Yeah.
What he was saying, yeah.
His wife does some stuff in fitness, I think, as a behavior analyst too. I'm not sure exactly what she does. I saw her on LinkedIn, I want to feel like, or not LinkedIn, Instagram. We chatted there at one point or something. So cool. All I do got to go shortly.
Yeah.
This was super fun. Appreciate y'all jumping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great.
Would you all be down again? Keep these going?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Cool.
for sure.
I'll probably set up the next one with Meryl. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say do the
I think that'd be cool, right?
I want to do the follow up.
Yeah. Okay. The goal with that one, I know I mentioned Hangouts earlier, but I want to do it on Facebook so we can do that one live and see how that goes. So
Yeah.
I do have a software service that can do that, and we've been testing it, so I know that works. So yeah, we'll work on organizing that.
Cool.
Any final words of wisdom?
No.
Going.
Okay. Up here.
It's Friday. Friday, go have a beer.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye.
the support.
Yeah.
Had fun chatting. Y'all
Yeah.
take care. Have a great weekend. And I don't know, I'll see you online. Right?
We'll chat again. Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Peace.
Bye.